So this is the sutta on the 8 thoughts of a great person.
What sutta is that?
Anguttara Nikaya 8.30. And so, on one occasion, Venerable Anuruddha, alone in seclusion, contemplated the following 8 thoughts of a great person. 7. He contemplated only 7. And number 1 is, this Dhamma is for... I'll just read all 7, and then we can discuss it later. This Dhamma is for one who is not seeking admiration. Not for one who is seeking admiration. This Dhamma is for one who is content, not for one who is discontent. This Dhamma is for one who resorts to seclusion, not for one who delights in society. This Dhamma is for one who is diligent, not for one who is lazy. This Dhamma is for one who has a good memory, not who is forgetful. This Dhamma is for one who is settled, not for one who is unsettled. This Dhamma is for one who is wise, not for one who is foolish. And as he was thinking these thoughts, the Blessed One knew what was in the mind of Venerable Anuruddha, and then said to him, "It is commendable that you have reflected on these thoughts of a great person. Therefore, Anuruddha, also reflect on this 8th thought of a great person. This Dhamma is for one who delights in non-proliferation, not for one who delights in proliferation." So just to add there, the Buddha says further that when you reflect on these 8 thoughts, then you will be able to attain, as you wish, the jhanas, all 4 jhanas. And when you do that, then all of the requisites, basic requisites, alms, just, rough alms food, rough clothes, rough shelter, rough medicine, will feel like luxuries. So just keep that in mind, that these thoughts leads to jhana and pleasant abiding with basic requisites, the basic of the basic, the roughest of the rough. And so the Buddha goes on further and describes each of these points. So what was meant by the statement, this Dhamma is for those who are not seeking admiration, those who are not seeking admiration. So it's usually translated as, this Dhamma is for one who has no desires. Few desires. But the next point is one who is content, who is content with little, so it's like the same. But the Pali word means unassuming. And you could say one who is not pretentious. And the explanation that the Buddha gives says here, when a bhikkhu is one who doesn't seek admiration, he does not wish, let other people know me to be one who doesn't seek admiration. When he is content, he doesn't wish, let other people know me as content. When he is in solitude, he does not wish, let people know me to be one who resorts to solitude. When he is diligent, he does not wish, let other people know me to be diligent. When he is recollected, mindful, he does not wish, let other people know me to be recollected. When he is settled, he doesn't wish for others to know him as settled. When he is wise, he doesn't wish others to know him as wise. And when he is non-proliferated, he doesn't wish others to know that he is non-proliferated. So he doesn't go around seeking admiration, desiring to be known. The desire and pretentiousness, the dictionary, attempting to impress by affecting a greater importance or merit than is actually possessed.
Yeah, that's a bit too coarse.
Yeah, a bit too
pretentiousness. But you could see just to the point of not. It's not like, oh, I want to be not known, but it's certainly on the level of, I don't want to be known either. Because sometimes people can think, in order to be humble and unassuming and not seeking admiration, I must seek the opposite. That's not the case either. So he simply practices out of his own wisdom, for his own benefit. Whether others know him on account of it or not, it's irrelevant. It bears no relevance. It's not a reference point for him. So he doesn't wish to be known. That doesn't mean he will prevent to be known if others do know him on their own accord. Like he will go out of his way to hide himself or something like that. That's not the case either. Because you would do that because you still care. Now you just go the other way. So that's why it's like obviously the subtlest thread that goes from the most coarse pretentiousness, pompousness, admiration, to just, do you have perception of others, value in the perception of others knowing what you're doing? Like, because there doesn't need to be any value in that. It's irrelevant, in other words. So if you're doing it for the sake of practice, for the sake of benefit, for the sake of like settlement and all the other things that follow. But then, what if your mind still thinks about whether others know you or not? It still values a degree of admiration. How do you deal with that?
The fundamental issue with that is the other, is as long as there is this sense of self, there will be the other.
Yeah, that's why it is there. But that's not the question. The question is, how do you deal with that which is there?
By uprooting the sense of self would be...
But how can you uproot it if you're still admiring others?
Or you're seeking the admiration of others.
So that you start by seeking admiration. How do you uproot it? Because seeking admiration maintains that which you're trying to uproot. So
by seeing that seeking, and thereby not being moved by it, not being pressured by it. You only get.
Well, it's not a matter of choice, though, isn't it? Not being pressured by it. You are.
Oh, sorry.
You can't. I choose
not acting out of the pressure.
Not acting out of it.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So, seeking admiration. How is that done? Well, it's done by acting out of that wanting admiration. So the mind might still value others knowing this, but are you seeking it? Are you acting out of it? Are you making others known? Are you hinting so that you are known as such and such? All of those are intentional actions, efforts that you make. So don't do that. And then if the mind is still seeking admiration, well, that's fine. You endure that part. You don't act out of it. You don't add fuel to it in terms of your choices and actions that would then be contributing to that need for admiration. And by not fueling it and carrying on practicing, putting it aside, that which pressures you to act out of, it will subside. You will stop valuing it. You will then one day just find yourself, I stopped caring whether others know or not. But you won't stop caring magically or on account of some sort of specific thing to do. It's more like, no, you have to endure that pressure for admiration, for recognition sufficiently enough, and not having acted out of it, not feeling justified in acting out of it, not fueling it further. And then if others know you or not, if they admire you or not, that's not a problem. I mean, praise and blame, it's what moves the entire world. It's one of the worldly winds, so it's a deeply rooted thing. Being praised, being blamed is irrationally feared. Being praised is irrationally liked. So it's not just something you can choose to not be affected by. But how do you go beyond it? That's the question, and the answer to that is just as we said. Well, first, don't act out of it. So same, if you are blamed, well, don't act out of it immediately. Like, don't like, let me explain myself. Why? Is that rooted in fear of being blamed? Or what difference does it make? Like, even if, say, well, I'm blamed wrongly, yeah, but did you do something wrong? No, well, then you don't need to explain yourself. The only reason you would be explaining yourself is because you don't like being blamed, regardless of whether it's righteous blame or not. So you're acting out of weakness. You're not settled. You're not wise. You're fueling it further. You're fueling your dependence on irrational winds of the world, how they move. Same. Do you relish the praise? Do you incline towards it? Do you welcome it? Do you delight in it? Exactly like you would do to sensual thoughts.
I think part of that also is that, when you're blamed, not necessarily by everybody, but certainly by certain people, you start kind of from the point of view of actually kind of, if I'm blamed by somebody whose, let's say, opinion I respect, that means I'm blameworthy, as in you kind of almost define your own sense of right and wrong in terms of how others see you.
Yeah.
And it's same, like when you're praised, the reason people it's so kind of intoxicating is that means I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm objectively good. Yeah.
Because others see me as good.
Because I've been praised. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's like
the Dhamma is not for that kind of person.
No, that needs to.
You don't know what is good or
you have
bad.
to have endured that quite a lot. If you're still moved by on that level, means you're not authentic enough. So, but that is a practice already. Yeah, enduring it on the right level. Then yes, as I said, if you're blamed, you look at what for. Is it factual? Is it actions that have been rooted? In which case, sure, you make your amends to that extent. But even then, you will pretty quickly recognize if you are acting out of it because irrationally you just resist the discomfort of blame. Just that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who. Doesn't matter if somebody who respects you or not. Basically, if people blame you, that must be avoided, because for no other reason, simply because it's unpleasant. And that's for as long as you act out of those things, or try to avoid or prevent or kind of wiggle out, you will also then be cultivating the opposite of it, which is you will be gratuitously still valuing praise for no reason, for no fact. And if there is a factual reason, well, the facticity of that praise is what matters, not whether somebody praised you about it or not. That's irrelevant. So if somebody praised you because you're so wise, well, it's your wisdom that matters there, not the fact that somebody praised you. That did not make it more palpable or more valuable. And you will start to differentiate it. And then whether they praise you or blame you, no, you know where the line for what's good and what's bad is. What's blameworthy you would see within yourself.
That's that danger of praise, the big danger of praise, because it's so easily, it's intoxicating. From the start, you don't have any wisdom, so you get praise from the start.
If you're not authentic
there's
enough,
no
it will
hope.
be a very easy, slippery
for
slope.
monastics, you get ordained, you become praised as an arahant almost immediately in some cultures. Everyone's bowing down to you. So, wow. And now you're going to do the work when you're already the whole world's.
But most importantly,
sees
really,
you as an
you are praised if you toe the line of the established tradition, for example. So you're praised on account of external conformity. So that does, whether somebody is elevated but people bow to them or not, that's, it's a bit coarse. I think most people would see the line there. Oh, it's just a traditional thing, whatever. But where people would not see the line is emulating the external form, appearance, tradition, etiquette for accomplishment. So now if I actually meet these requirements of external behavior, that is what is good in and of itself, and that is praiseworthy in and of itself. If I thus don't meet these equally kind of often pointless requirements, or that is blameworthy. So basically, by developing that attitude, you are completely obscuring the domain of intentions, which are the root factor of whether something is actually praiseworthy of blame or blameworthy. So, if you have committed to such an external etiquette, norm, practice, tradition, observances, authorities, it will result in you being absolutely convinced now that you are pure and praiseworthy and upholding the Dhamma, while you are actually even more, you have drifted even more further away from basic recognition of your intentionality behind everything you do, which you were probably closer to when you started practicing than you are now. So it's not like how I do it and how it's like, no, why am I doing it? Greed, aversion or distraction, or non-greed, non-aversion, non-distraction. That is the criteria. But that's not something that can be measured as easily as a perfect mode of comportment. That people go, he speaks so softly, he never raises his voice, he moves his hands slowly, he whispers, he floats in the air. That is praiseworthy. Well, not according to the suttas, because the Buddha did, in a number of passages, mention there was that whole, if you might have a companion in a holy life that is softly spoken, friendly, praised by everybody, lovely to be with, amazing company, just so gentle in every way, but of a wrong view, and you should avoid him as you would avoid a charcoal pit, because it's just, no, that's not what you're practicing here. Then you can have a holy companion who is rough, hard to listen to, hard to live with, difficult person, but is of a right view. Oh, you should then make the effort and endure that and live with them, because you can actually learn. But if all of us are only guided by the external norm and comportment and right branding of right words, then yes, others will praise us on account of it, and then if you don't meet their requirements, you'll be blamed on account of it. But neither of those things really matter for where the practice is and where the intentions are. So it's not like you need to now resist and reject all the conventions and so on. They will be equally misguided, but you certainly need to start really recognizing what is the source of an action that makes it either praiseworthy or blameworthy, regardless of whether others praise you on account of it or blame you on account of it. So now you have many different styles, many different traditions, many different schools, many different branches of tradition, many different interpretations and all this. In other words, things have proliferated, so there is no more a unified, even external criteria. I mean, you can use common sense, but as I said, people tend to subjugate the common sense to the whether this is praised or blamed by the general population of spiritual practitioners. If they like it, I shall do it. If they don't like it, I shall not do it. But that's only a relative criteria you should be considering. Internally, it should be rooted in where is my intention behind this? That's what makes it good, that's what makes it bad. If you were to ask most people today, they would say, no, we think you should not be celibate and sense restraint. That's too much, that's repression, that's bad for the mind. You should practice your spirituality without that. So, would you then just draw a line there? Or so where do you draw a line? What is the line? Or if the tradition requires you to spend, all the time in like massive groups of people, hundreds of monks, thousands of ladies for days of just constant... I mean, the Buddha told of sekas, almost arahants, for gathering together and talking over sewing, like patching robes and stuff. He said, is this like a fisherman's market? But today it's deemed acceptable that thousands of us come together for days and they just eat and talk and sit and
bless.
And it's regarded as a holy, noble thing to do. Because everybody likes it. It's like, but is that the criteria? If it's universally praised, is that why it's good? Because you could find plenty of other things that are universally praised that you won't be doing. So, and that's the whole point. Once you start clarifying that thread between praise and blame and admiration and if you follow that thread all the way as it takes you, you will abandon any and every conceit, internally or externally. Any sense of self, internally or externally. So it wouldn't be that surprising or mystical or magical how you would then abide in jhana at will. Because it's not just mere reasoning. Sure, you can reason, but then follow the same thread all the way. And anything that partakes in the conceit, in the admiration, you don't act out of it. Doesn't matter if the whole world says, no, you should do it, Venerable Sir, it is good. You know that it's not, because you now see a direct reference point for whether it's good or not, which is your intention. Intention for admiration or intention that dismisses it and doesn't want anything to do with it.
You're not pressured, you're not acting out of the pressure of the world.
Yeah. And that's the way to basically to reach this point, to start recognizing this subtler thread is to endure the pressure of praise, of tradition, of external requirements. You know the precepts, you know the Vinaya, you know the sense restraint, you know the suttas. You don't need any other authority, you don't need any other. If you need other things to keep you together as a monk, you better start,
The praise of others to keep you together.
Or the like uniformity of the tradition or something. Oh, because without it I just can't do it myself. Well, it means you can't practice yourself, and practice is for oneself. So in other words, for as long as you're doing it, you won't be practicing it.
It's like this Sutta Majjhima Nikaya 8, where it says like the way to self-effacement is, just to reflect. Well, others may be cruel, but here I won't be cruel. Others may have wrong whatever, but here, like whatever the world does is irrelevant.
Yeah. I'm alone.
Factually,
I'm alone, and I'm taking that on, and that's where the practice is. Yeah.
And that is how you would then,
It kind of ties into that other one. He delights in solitude, not in society.
In company.
In the ways of society, in just the views of society.
Yeah.
And there's that other sutta where it said that one, like the about the wrong reasons to go forth, like one goes forth and then gains renown and fame, and he is contented with that, and that's where he stops, and that's not why one should go.
It just reminds me of another sutta. If we can just stay on that one for. It's Digha Nikaya 1. It says, if bhikkhus, others speak in dispraise of me, or in dispraise of the Dhamma or the Sangha, you should not give way to resentment, displeasure, or animosity against them. For if you were to become angry or upset in such a situation, you would only be creating an obstacle for yourself. If you would become angry or upset when others speak in dispraise of us, would you be able to recognize whether their statements are right or wrong? Certainly not, Lord. So, and if others speak in dispraise of me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, you should unravel what is false and point out which is false, saying, for such and such a reason, this is wrong, this is untrue, there is no such thing in this is not found among us. And if others speak in praise of me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, you should not give way to elation, joy, and happiness, for if you were to become excited in such a way, you would only be creating an obstacle for yourself. If others speak in praise of me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, you should acknowledge what is in fact true. For such and such a reason, this is a fact, this is true, that there is such a thing in us, this is found among us. And he goes on further to say, it is only in regard to insignificant matters and minor details of mere moral virtue that a worldling, an ordinary person, would refer when speaking in praise of the Buddha. So he doesn't have the
be able to see them all. There's no capacity there developed. Yeah, but the bottom line is, see, either way, you don't make it personal by acting out of your own personality, so to speak. Or you are elated, or you are upset, so now you are referring, addressing, dealing with the other person that said that or did that. No, just point out what is factually wrong view as a wrong view, or what is the right aspect of what they said as a right aspect. It doesn't need to become personal either way. It doesn't need to go further than that.
Yeah, I am this, you
are wrong. What was said is factually wrong because of this, and this, and that was correct because of this, and this. I don't really care who said it, why they said it, and what type of person, what kind of person they are, and so on. It's irrelevant. If it is relevant, it's because you have taken it personally. And if you take it personally, does that mean, can you take things personally and have perspective at the same time on things that you take it personally? No, but taking things personally means automatically losing a degree of perspective. And then you will not be able to see whether they're factually, objectively right or wrong in what they're saying. So that's why it's an obstacle. You are creating an obstruction for yourself unnecessarily, because there's no reason to take it personally. You just did it out of that unchecked habit, acting out of it, and not wanting to endure the discomfort of that pressure. Oh, but he was attacking me. He was talking about me. Yeah, and even imagine the worst case scenario. Yes, he was. He is disrespecting you, nobody else. Why is that your problem? Oh, I don't quite know. He just feels uncomfortable. I just take that painful feeling for granted and I want to get rid of it. So how'd you get rid of it? Well, by defending my honor or something.
Or by not taking yourself so
Yeah, well, that's one way to try to
Yes.
get rid of it. But have you freed yourself from it in the past, whenever you defended your honor and justified yourself and showed everybody that they were wrong and you were right? Well, no, I'm still here, equally affected. And again, that's why the Buddha did compare enduring the words of others to just putting up and bearing the elements. Like, it's going to be felt uncomfortably because of your personality. Conceit still there, degrees of it, not because it's a problem in and of itself.
But if someone was blaming you for something, you could actually.
By not acting personally, by not taking personally, then you would actually be able to see impersonally whether the blame is factually correct. Maybe you have been doing something wrong,
and now you have a chance to.
And now you see it, and you still don't need to take it personally, and that's why you would be able to see this and actually rectify it.
Making what is right and what is wrong more important than yourself.
Yeah, and everybody, that's the thing with that, everybody kind of already knows that. Even the complete Asuttava Putujana, say somebody wants to sort out their life, maybe draw a line for people that are taking advantage of them, maybe draw a line for themselves. If you were to ask them, in that like a non-imperative sense, what do you think you should do? They would probably, 99% of them would know exactly what they need to do to make their life better and their mind calmer and more settled. But then they won't be able to do it. Because they will still put their personality first, which then it would also then require, it would be hard to uphold these determinations, these decisions, these knowledges of what you need to do, because I'm just so used to acting out of the pressure of senses, sensuality, personality, and the views. This is just too abstract. Although, factually, I know what I need to do to make my life better, I know where the line is, where I should draw it, where I should say no to people, and so on, but I just can't. And it's like, well, that's why, like, if you can't do even that, then you won't. The Dhamma simply doesn't apply to you.
Just another sutta which might correspond to this. As the 4 types of people with no integrity and people with integrity. So the Dhamma is not for one with no integrity, you could say. And this sutta says, a person of no integrity, when unasked, reveals his own good points, to say nothing of when asked. Furthermore, when asked, when pressed with questions, he is one who speaks of his own good, points in full and in detail, without omissions, without holding back. This person, you may know, this venerable one, is a person of no integrity.
In other words, he speaks about himself.
Yeah, and
one way or the other.
Just
speaks about himself.
Yeah.
Well, let me teach you the Dhamma by speaking about myself.
Yeah. As a child, I was like this. And
well, whatever, whichever way, shape and form that can take, you could see where the emphasis is. Is it on the points made, freedom from contradiction, clarity of instruction, or is it on, I've been through these experiences, I've done this, I've seen this, completely unnecessary, even if it were factual. But then if it were factual, you wouldn't be emphasizing yourself.
Well, yeah, it's
as simple as that.
The other side of it says he's one who speaks of his own, if he's asked and pressed, he speaks of his own good points, not in full, not in detail, with omissions, holding back. So if he's pressed, even if he's pressed, so if he's asked, okay,
we
then
might
he holds back a bit. Because obviously it's all about yourself. We come in across. For you want other people to know you as someone great. To partake in your love for yourself, basically. I want others to love me as much as I love myself. So the second point, this Dhamma is for one who is content, not for one who is discontent. And this means that he is content with any kind of requisites, robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicine.
And you can take that same principle. So again, take that thread as far as it goes. Am I content or am I discontent? So what is discontentment? When is a person discontent?
When they want something that they don't have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not like necessarily, you're not discontent by being in a bad mood, for example. No, you are responsible for your discontent, and then sure you can be in a bad mood on account of that. But the discontent is so I am cultivating, welcoming, delighting, and so on, acting out of the attitude of, oh, it shouldn't be this way, I want it a certain other way, or I don't want it now, or I didn't have enough of it. So a certain degree of entitlement, righteousness, all that would make you discontent. Wanting basically what you don't have, wanting more of what you have.
Wanting the external world to be a certain way. So
wanting the external world to be a certain way. Just whenever there is a discontent, you will find it in one of these ways of your going about it. So you are responsible for it directly. That's why if you then abandon that and cultivate the contentment with whichever way your situation is, then you will actually follow again that thread as far as it goes, and it would result in kind of pretty much completely uprooting sensuality. If you follow the thread of contentment with any condition of the body, any requisites, any access, no sense of removal of the slightest sense of entitlement. That's why I think discontent was one of the Mara's daughters. Discontent, sensuality goes hand in hand. It's rooted in desires.
It's interesting, because it's kind of obvious that contentment, which is more pleasant, contentment or discontent.
Yeah.
It's obvious that contentment is more pleasant, but it's not the kind of pleasure already that's on the level of the kind of pleasure that people.
Well, that's exactly the principle of sensuality.
Exactly. So then,
in and of itself, the prospect of sensuality is actually unpleasant. So you realize, I would be more contented if I don't act out of this. If this leaves me alone. If I don't make this worse, that is more contenting for myself. But that already requires recognition and wisdom and discernment of certainly of the nature of sensuality to a great degree. Because otherwise your assumptions are on the level, no, contentment comes after I get what I want. Yeah.
So the only purpose of that wanting is more wanting, if you look at it from this perspective.
From the individual point of view,
can't see that.
Yeah, you won't be seeing that. So then the only purpose of, basically the only idea of contentment is the contentment on account of sensuality that you know, which means anything less than your desires being met will be experienced as discontent.
So you're seeing, it's tricking you, this sensuality, into seeing discontent as content, as something which is delightful.
Yeah, it is a perversion of perception. Yeah, that which is actually discontent, you're perceiving as content. That which is actually painful, you're perceiving as pleasant, as agreeable.
Whereas if you were to see it, then you would just endure this already given desire, which is painful, and therefore, be able to maintain this perspective and not fuel it, and that's the only way for it to. And
then the pressure of it would eventually disappear.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't need to even endure anything.
Yeah.
Be satisfied.
You'd already be content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the wound's healed. No matter what touches it, it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah, so no external thing can give you that.
No more prod.
The best meal with just the perfect amount of salt and whatever.
It's not seen there anymore. No. Becomes irrelevant, basically.
Whether people praise you or blame you, doesn't matter. And the third point, this Dhamma is for one who resorts to solitude, not for one who delights in society. And what does that mean? When a bhikkhu resorts to solitude, other bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, male lay followers, female lay followers, kings, royal ministers, heads of other religions, and disciples belonging to other religions approach him. In each case, with a mind that inclines to seclusion, withdrawn, delighting in renunciation, he gives them a talk invariably concerned with dismissing them. So he doesn't get involved only so much so that they get
Well,
the
they
message.
answer what they came for, but you don't make them stay longer. Chatting them up further
Yeah.
and so on. And that would come out of a mind that inclines towards solitude.
Mm.
You can try and measure and learn how to speak, but fundamentally, are you delighting in company or are you content being alone? Because see, all of these thoughts, it's on the level of something you are cultivating or not. That's why if you cultivate them rightly, wisdom will be the result of it, and jhanas will be obtainable at will. So, is your mind inclining towards solitude or towards others? Spending time with others, talking with others, seeing others, dwelling with others.
engagement.
Yeah. And sure, you will not start. Nobody will start suddenly, I prefer solitude. So that's why it takes effort and discernment. But then, yes, you have to endure the pressure of wanting company, of acting towards company, of talking when it's not necessary, of somebody, they came to see me. Yeah, okay, but have you made them stay longer through your incessant sort of, speech and so on?
Mhm.
So you could still see that it's on you. Like you are fueling the mind to incline towards society, towards company, or you will be removing that fuel so the mind will start inclining towards solitude. Now again, you need to recognize that that's where the line is, because you can then have also people who just really hate others, are full of ill will, don't want to have to deal with them. So then they quote passages on solitude. Not because they really mind inclines towards solitude, mind still inclines towards people just with ill will.
Mhm.
So in order to not experience the discomfort of ill will, you just want to be left alone. That's sometimes understandable, but it can also become like a view of others bother me so much, just sights of others, perceptions of others. I don't want to have to deal with it. And now that's a bit too much the other way, because it's rooted in aversion. So does that mean you go and seek the company? No. That means when the company is there, is your mind filled with ill will?
Mhm. You're still intimately engaged with them.
Well, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, so one is sort of
One
overly affirming it, the other is trying to deny it. Either way, it's still defined by the company.
Mhm.
So you don't need to then seek the company to prove to yourself that you don't hate the company. But when the company is inevitably present, which will have to happen, you see, is my mind now inclining towards solitude out of this neutral sort of, no, solitude is beneficial for the development of the mind and everything else, or is it because I just don't want to deal with this? I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to have to talk to others. Is it ill will? If it's so, that's your problem now.
Mhm.
It's a different type of problem, but it's nevertheless a problem.
You can't help yourself but getting involved, even just
Yeah.
mentally.
So
with other
sure,
people's-
you can carry on avoiding the company, but now you have to do it for the right reasons. Don't think that your work is completed. Having avoided company on account of ill will or not wanting to be bothered, don't think your work is completed simply by avoiding company, because now you have to deal with the ill will and being bothered. So yes, avoid the company and then deal with this. The next time company is there, you will have neither ill will nor delight in them.
In case it's relevant, the agama parallel to that sutta, and at this point where it defines seclusion, it says, it's somewhat shorter, it just says he resorts to two types of seclusion: physical seclusion and mental seclusion. So it's kind of interesting in relation to what you just said, because even if somebody is in physical seclusion on account of others,
Yeah, it's
even
exactly
avoiding
that.
them,
Yeah.
they're not
You're not
mentally
mentally secluded. You still dwell in that company. Yeah.
Mm.
What parallel is that? To this, to the.
To this
Uh-huh.
sutta. I don't remember precisely which number.
Mhm. And point number 4, the Dhamma is for one who is diligent, not for one who is lazy. Here a bhikkhu is resolved on abandoning unwholesome qualities and
Yep.
acquiring wholesome qualities. He is strong, firm in exertion, not casting off the duty of cultivating wholesome qualities.
Yep.
So he's,
we covered that in so many other talks.
yeah, it's pretty
Mm.
clear.
How you abandon and what you endure, and
Not a
what you need to see.
procrastinator. Not procrastinator.
yeah, and also again, not misperceiving where your duty is really. Oh yes, I'm so diligent. I do the chores and I fold my robe perfectly, and I wash the bowl meticulously with like almost methodical meditation motions and so on. But that's not your duty. Do you also tolerate the mind of sensuality, or do you make the effort to establish the context in regards to sensual thoughts that are besetting you? Do you tolerate the mind of ill will, or do you also make the effort that whenever it presents itself, even a possibility of it, you also then establish the mind, the perceptions of how this is not for your benefit, it is for your harm, and do you then endure that? Well, that's where the diligence is.
No, I'd rather just deal with.
I'd rather just sweep the
external
leaves
forms
and polish the floor,
Yeah.
and my duty is complete.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you're an arahant, you can just do that, because yes, you would have then done all the work that matters. But if you're not, you are just deluding yourself.
That's sorry, just to
Mm.
add. There's this short verse that just says, not through feeble efforts, not through lack of exertion is this extinguishment to be attained, release from all suffering. But I find it like the sutta that is going with that is that same sutta where it talks about this monk who is not doing the duties that are expected. The other monks see that he's not participating as much in like the sewing of the robes and everything.
Because he was practicing
Because he
jhana,
was
basically, in
practicing jhana, he
solitude.
was doing his own duty, and
Yeah.
that's then the exertion that is obviously
Yeah,
referred
yeah.
to as like the other monks who were kind of so busy with everything else. They were the kind of ones more, like being, well, not necessarily, but you don't measure it by that, obviously.
But same. Somebody can say, okay, so see, seclusion's better, I shouldn't do any duties. Again,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
start with that and then see what the state of mind is behind it. Is it because you are lazy? You can't even do the menial tasks? How do you think you're going to be dealing with hindrances? If even sweeping the leaves is too disturbing for your mind, oh, it's too much work. It's like, okay then, you have tipped the whole thing upside down and you're refusing to even try to recalibrate it.
So, number 5, this Dhamma is for one who is recollected or firm in mindfulness, good memory, not for one who is forgetful. And what does that mean? A bhikkhu is careful, prudent, and has an excellent memory of what was said and done long ago.
Again, just in case it's relevant, the Agama defines that one slightly differently. It just says he dwells in the 4 establishments of mindfulness, of recollectedness.
He's a sati, is firmly established.
Yeah. So,
Two.
how is your
Five.
memory? How is your memory? If we combine the two, how would you remember what was said and done long time ago of relevance by remembering your posture? Can I just be mindful of my knees and somehow the knowledge of what I heard long time ago will just come back? How would you remember anything? Where do you find your memory? Is it in physical sensations of your body in the present moment, right here, present moment, right here? Is that how you remember stuff? No, we spoke about it before. You remember by stepping away, by sort of, or at least temporarily stepping aside from absorption in sense objects. That's why one who is practicing virtue, sense restraint, leading himself away from sense objects, from engagement with the content, is naturally becoming more mindful. He's naturally becoming less forgetful.
Unknowledgeable.
Well, exactly. Now
knowledge
that
of
you're not
understanding.
forgetful, now that you are mindful, that you can recollect, exactly, now you have these contexts that are becoming more and more known. So that's the 4 foundations of mindfulness, basically. The 4 practices of surmounting the engagement with the content of your experience and discerning the nature of it.
If you engage with the content of your experience, you're not aware that you're engaged.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
already
you-
lost.
you
That's
forgot.
already
There's
a
no
degree
knowledge
of lacking perspective. Yeah. So you could, if you would then take that thread all the way, as we said before, thread of recollectedness. Well, there will be in the end impossible for you to not have perspective upon your situation as a whole, of anatta, anicca, everything else that you need to understand on account of Dhamma, that you need to discern in these 5 aggregates. So the only way to discern the 5 aggregates correctly is to start withdrawing yourself from the content of your senses, because that's not where you're going to find them.
Also, the 5 hindrances, abandoning them, is directly related to remembering things that were said and done long ago.
Well, because if we're speaking about the things that are present in a non-specific manner, in a manner that you cannot measure as an object of your senses, a degree of presence, the 5 hindrances are the chief amongst them.
Yeah.
That's why if you were to surmount them on that level, the mind will be in jhana.
Whereas the specific, again, is what is taking you away from the non-specific.
Yeah, you start by being taken away. So then that's why virtue has to come, precepts have to come first. That you don't even know to what extent, but by keeping the precepts and guarding of the sense doors, you are sort of withdrawing yourself gradually out of that overly proliferated specificity of your senses and pleasures and avoiding pain and so on, which is all down the rabbit holes of objects, sense objects, sensual proliferation. Fundamentally, you're in the content not because you haven't really collected all the information about how this comes about. No, it's because you're not withdrawn from it sufficiently enough. So, mentally, have you endured the pull of the senses without acting out of it sufficiently enough, to the point that you're settled, not bothered by it, regardless of which way it takes, regardless of what object presents itself? That's how you then dwell on the nature of the experience, which is what Dhamma is, the nature. So it's not a mystical, I access this nature. It's like, no, withdrawing yourself from the content, starting from sensuality, acting out of ill will, thoughts of cruelty, eventually up to the 5 hindrances, and then, you will be the Dhamma, you will be the on the level of discerning the nature of the experience, because you have actually made that diligent effort to withdraw yourself from everything else that was obstructing it.
It's basically what you attend or how you attend. It's yonisamanasikara.
It's both to begin with, because a person can think, okay, I can attend to sensuality as long as I attend it rightly, in the sense of I am already pulled by sensuality. So no, certain things you have to avoid, even certain what's. Until eventually, of course, you have fully overcome the wrong type of attention, then you would not be able to attend it in that old way that you thought it was a neutral way from which I can practice mindfulness. No, certain things need to be stopped and abandoned in sensuality, ill will must not be welcomed, and so on. But fundamentally, you want to uproot it, then you have to endure those states of mind, not having acted out of them. So when I say you got to deny this sensuality, means you got to deny your engagement with it, because that is what sensuality is for you. And then endure as we said before, the discontent of the unfulfilled desire, because you realize, okay, so that's one thing, but me acting on account of it, that's another thing. So I should first stop acting on account of it, not being moved by it, become settled in regard to it, and then you'll stop being bothered by it.
And point number 6, the Dhamma is for one who is settled, not for one who is unsettled. Samahita. And what does that mean? It means one who is able to attain the jhanas, or practice jhana.
One who is able to be unmoved by things that would otherwise move you. So, and that's again brings me back frequently to that point. So the whole samadhi thing, the whole practice of overcoming unwholesome, is not about getting rid of these unwholesome things and being unmoved by them. That's how you get rid of them. When you are unmoved by them, they'll stop coming. Because they keep coming, because there's still possibility they could move you.
Point number 7. This Dhamma is for one who is wise, not for one who is foolish.
One who discerns, not the one who doesn't.
Panya, one with panya.
Discernment.
Here, wherever one goes, he is endowed with discernment that is noble and insightful, leading to the destruction of suffering. So that's all wherever you go, you
he sees the context that he needs to see. He protects it, he maintains it.
It seems to be referring to the right view.
Yeah,
to the destruction of suffering.
from the
The whole
start
thing
to the
is
end. Yeah.
Mhm. So the Dhamma is one for the right. Who has the right?
Yeah.
Who has the right view? Kind of.
Yeah.
And point number 8 is kind of similar, actually. This Dhamma is for one who delights in non-proliferation, not for one who delights in proliferation. He's one whose mind inclines toward the ending of proliferation, becomes calm, settles down, and is liberated.
Mm.
So it's kind of saying the same. You're not proliferating those obstacles, or you're not proliferating
Mm.
greed, acting out of greed, your anger, and your delusion.
Yeah. So, what is the basis for any proliferation? Because you could proliferate thoughts on Dhamma. Not that that would be the Dhamma for you at the time, but you could proliferate your sutta study. You could proliferate your Pali study, your scholarship.
Mm.
You could proliferate all these things. You could proliferate just seeking answers to the questions that are relevant to the suffering and so on. But yet you're proliferating them. Why is that? What will be the difference between somebody not proliferating their thoughts on Dhamma and another person proliferating their thoughts on Dhamma? What would be the...
Doing it with the sense of self.
Okay. More specifically, both are doing it with a sense of self because they're not arahants.
Ayoniso manasikara.
Ayoniso would be the necessary basis. And what does ayoniso is result in?
Well, you emphasize content rather than context.
And when would you do that?
Well,
When you put what first?
well, yourself basically, but
When you act out of what?
desire
Yeah, craving.
to understand or to
So,
resolve.
You start with craving, as we said before, but the point comes when you, through starting with craving, you learn that the craving is the root of suffering. So now you're thinking the Dhamma, you're clarifying the ideas, you're studying Pali, but really, you need to start asking yourself, is this rooted in craving? So, I have doubt present in my mind about this sutta or that sutta. Is it pleasant, is it unpleasant, or is it neutral? Am I moved by the doubt first? Yes. If I am moved by the doubt, whatever I do, including, answering these questions and getting the answer, will be rooted in the hindrance of doubt. And you might do it once, you do it twice, you do it 100 times. But if you have any wisdom or discernment, you'll start recognizing, okay, I have provided an answer to this countless numbers of times from all sorts of directions. How about now I stop that and I endure the pain of the doubt and I don't act out of it? Yeah, but then everything will fall apart. And it's like, well, even if everything falls apart, I still know what I will not do, which is break the precepts, lose the sense restraint, start valuing company. I'll just endure everything falling apart. Because what's the definition of everything falling apart or nothing falling apart? Oh, things being there on my own terms? Well, that's why they will fall apart. Not because there's something wrong with them or even with my information, but because I want to hold them the way I think they should be held. Well, then they should really fall apart. And they will start falling apart if you start enduring the pressure of doubt and not acting out of it. And that's how the first 3 fetters will fall apart. So, craving. Craving led you to this, but then craving also made you understand and collect information that craving is the problem. So, you can now carry on perpetuating that repetition of the same information for the rest of your life and studying etymology and get introduced all the other ancient languages, get a degree in all of it. But fundamentally, what you learn in the very beginning, that craving is a problem, you haven't dealt with it. You still haven't dealt with that craving because you're still fueling it.
Yeah,
Sure, you're not fueling it in the ways of sensuality, in the ways of mindless asceticism, but you are very much fueling it in the ways of views. Yeah. So, either way, you are bound by it.
Yeah, you're delighting in distracting yourself.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at the context.
Yeah. And that is a delight in proliferation.
And the word is papancha,
Mm.
which can be like an obstacle. So proliferating obstacles.
Yeah.
So just, a silly kind of question, but why would I be in jhana by thinking these thoughts.
Why would
Someone
you
might
be
ask,
Yeah.
so how does I get...
So
how
if
do I
you
get
think
into
these
jhana?
thoughts rightly, follow the thread all the way, establish your mind upon it.
Act accordingly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Obviously,
That's
it goes without
presupposed.
saying, but-
Yeah. So why would then that be the jhana?
Because I think if you're contemplating it rightly, you're not just doing a study, figuring out the Pali words, but
Yeah.
actually looking into the meaning of it. You are seeing it there. You are knowing it.
Yeah. So why
You're
would
reflecting. Am
why
I
would
doing
knowing
this,
these
not doing
things still? Why would knowing these things result in jhana? It will pretty much. Why? What is jhana?
Withdrawal
From what?
from the external.
From sensuality, from unwholesome states.
From 5 hindrances, from unwholesome states. So, by following these 8 types of thoughts, for the ones that discern, you are fully, completely surmounting, establishing the unshakable context in regard to anything that's unwholesome, anything that can even partake in the unwholesome. So then jhana is like at will available, because you are perpetually outside of the domain of unwholesome.
Through discernment.
Through discernment, through enduring rightly, through discerning, through not acting out of, through cultivating the 8 thoughts, following the thread all the way. So, you are not judging whether things are suitable or unsuitable, wholesome or unwholesome by, as we said, what everybody agrees upon, what majority says, what the most senior monk in the world tells you. No, you're judging it by whether it's rooted in, am I seeking admiration? Am I seeking sensuality? Am I acting out of doubt? Am I cultivating hindrances? Am I proliferating my own craving through acting out of it while I know really I should do? That becomes your criteria. And am I diligent in regard to this criteria? Am I lazy? Or am I putting in the work on this level? How can jhana then not be the result? Impossible.